What's up, world? It's your boy Tommy Mal, and there's something that really pissed me off, and I haven't really had a time or a chance to get around to making a video about it. But if you know me and you've been a fan of my channel, you understand one of my biggest pet peeves is the black quarterback bias. That is basically perpetuated by a bunch of insecure, frumpy white dudes who tend to go out and make videos and they salivate waiting for black quarterback to fail, and then when they fail, they try to end their career through narrative because they can't end it through actual they can't end it through actual talent, so they have to try to end it through narrative, and that's what they do. They kill all black quarterbacks through narrative, not so much. So, and one of the biggest perpetuators of this are a lot of African Americans on air talent. Guys like Stephen A. Smith lead the charge. Stephen A. Smith is notorious. Stephen A. Smith is the quintessential coon, right? I hate using that word, especially to define African American people, because I think it's very divisive, and it ends up being something that people use anytime that they have something to say that people don't agree with. They try to use the word coon, so I really don't like using that word. But I'm also not blind to the fact that sometimes it's apt. And with Stephen A. Smith, it is the most apt. This is the most apt characterization of what he is, right? Stephen A. Smith has absolutely no loyalty to anybody. He doesn't have loyalty to white people, but he is loyal to staying on air and doing whatever he has to do to continue to get money. ESPN can tell that man to come out there and basically say anything, and he will do it. What I have a problem with Stephen A. Smith, and why I continually cannot stand him, and there are a few people I hate more than Stephen A. Smith. Jason Whitlock, I hate. Skip, I hate. There are certain people I hate, but Stephen A. Smith is different to me. Because I did a couple videos a couple months ago talking about his whole situation with Colin Kaepernick, where he went out of his way to try to criticize Colin Kaepernick. He got buried, so he tried to backtrack a little bit, because he really, like I said, it really doesn't matter. He really has Stephen A. Smith has no morals. He has no real thought of his own. Stephen A. Smith is one of these people that I find to be people try to use the word yes man, but I'm not. Yes man does not apply. Coon applies, but I think it only applies in a vain or grayish type of characterization of what he is, because I don't think he is that. I think what Stephen A. Smith is everybody knows that there are certain types of people. You know, most of the time they're like Asians, right? Like when one of the biggest problems with the Asian culture is that a lot of them will succeed at the expense of loyalty to their race. Meaning, one of the reasons why a lot of times they characterize Asian people as the model race is because Asians typically succeed, and they really rarely ever bring their culture along with it. They leave their culture where it is, and then they go forward and they completely assimilate into white culture. That's what Stephen A. Smith is. He completely assimilates. Him, Michael Jordan, half of the people he hangs around, your Chris Carters, your Michael Jordans, those guys like that, they completely assimilate. So they're giving their opinions, but the problem with a lot of people like that, and a lot of white announcers as well, is that they do not have a lot of they don't have a lot of diversity in their circles. So a lot of their opinions are very contrived, and they're very repetitious. Like they repeat a lot of what they hear instead of what they know. So a lot of times they'll come to you and they'll tell you things that they think are facts because they heard a lot of people say them, but it's really not true if you actually do your research. That's what Stephen A. Smith is. Stephen A. Smith is an idiot, right? He doesn't know anything about football. He'll tell you he doesn't know anything about football. He only comments on it because he has to, right? So what he does is Stephen A. Smith likes to go to places where he thinks are the right answers, right? He's not a deep thinker, right? So he kind of takes a very generic and a very ignorant look at a lot of different things. He likes Aaron Rodgers because people tell him Aaron Rodgers is good. He likes Tom Brady because people tell him that Tom Brady is good. He likes people because people tell them they're good. He completely assimilates, meaning anything that the popular culture tells him, he accepts as fact. He accepts as his life. It's true because the world told him it's true. That's why. So he's hated Lamar Jackson from the beginning, and everybody said, like, what is with the Lamar? Stephen A. Smith hates Lamar Jackson because Lamar Jackson represents the lower class black people. It embarrasses him, right? He does not like the way Lamar Jackson wears his hair. He does not like the clothes that Lamar Jackson wears. He does not like the way Lamar Jackson talks. A lot of these guys, your Shannon Sharps, your Chris Carters, your Jason Whitlocks, all of these more sophisticated, assimilated blacks, they do not like Lamar Jackson because he represents the lower class. And when they like a Deshaun Watson, they like a Patrick Mahomes. Because Patrick Mahomes comes from a rich family, and Deshaun Watson has a short haircut. He plays the game how most pocket passers play, and that's it. So they like him for that. They hate Lamar Jackson because Lamar Jackson is counter to the norm. He does not talk like a normal seasoned class one of their type of quarterbacks. He doesn't talk like that. So he doesn't sound smart. So Stephen A. Smith does not like him because he's embarrassed by him. Just like he's embarrassed by most lower class blacks. He's embarrassed by Lamar Jackson. So anytime Lamar Jackson comes on TV or does well, he does not like to speak highly of Lamar Jackson because when he looks at a representation of black people, he does not like them looking at Lamar Jackson. He likes them looking at a Deshaun Watson. He likes them looking at a Russell Wilson. He likes them looking at a Patrick Mahomes. They're more sophisticated. They're more well read. I mean, they have better. They're more articulate when they speak. They sound smarter. So he likes them being a representation of black people. He does not like Lamar Jackson being a representation of black people, because Lamar Jackson represents low class black people. Lamar Jackson comes to his press conferences in t-shirts and with big chains on, and has dreads. He does not like that. Stephen A. Smith doesn't like that type of quarterback. He wants the guy that white people like. He wants the guy that the white people will look at and say, okay, he's acceptable. He's assimilated. He's accepted the culture. He's accepted he's drunk the orange juice. He's drunken. He's taking the juice. He's taking the he's soaking it up. He's assimilating. Lamar Jackson has not assimilated, so he does not like Lamar Jackson. He will never like Lamar Jackson. He will continually always talk negatively of him because he does not want Lamar Jackson seen as the standard for black quarterbacks because that embarrasses him, because he's a self-hating Negro who feels the only way black people have value is if they can show white people that they can assimilate well. That is how Stephen A. Smith thinks. Anytime a black person is counter, anytime a black person goes outside of assimilation, he will attack them. He will attack them all the time because he is the quintessential assimilation Negro. He will always go along to get along. And he will, and whatever white people say he has to do to fit in, he will do that to fit in. He will never stand on his own. He will never stand up for anything because as long as he has to represent, he thinks he's doing a good job by representing the assimilation Negro. He wants these new guys, the new Negroes. That's what they are. They're assimilation Negroes. They're go along to get along Negroes who believe that if you just do what white people are asking you to do, then you'll succeed. But people, they don't realize that, yes, that if you want to go that way, that is your choice to go that way. But I should not be subjugated to discrimination and or stereotyping and or persecution because I choose not to assimilate and leave my culture behind. They do not like Lamar Jackson. When they ask Lamar Jackson what he listens to, he says Kodak Black. Do you think that you ask Deshaun Watson what he's listening to, he's gonna say Kodak Black? You think if you're gonna ask if Deshaun Watson is ever gonna come to a freaking press conference with a huge chain on? No. That's the reason why Lamar Jackson is so popular, but that's also the reason why he is so hated, because he is not an assimilation Negro. Now, he's a great guy. He should be the representation that you want to show, because Lamar Jackson represents like a LeBron James. He's a guy like LeBron. That's why LeBron James has never really fully been grasped by a lot of assimilation Negroes, because LeBron James refuses to let go of his culture. LeBron James refuses to just be a Michael Jordan type of guy, go golfing. No, you'll see LeBron James hanging around rappers. You'll see LeBron James going out to clubs. You ain't gonna see LeBron James on no golf course. You ain't gonna see LeBron James doing assimilation Negro things like Charles Barkley or Michael Jordan or Karl Malone. You ain't gonna see LeBron James doing that. You ain't gonna see Dwayne Wade doing that. You ain't gonna see those guys doing that, because that's not what they do. They are black. I mean, you're not saying you're not black if you play golf. I'm saying they're more of a hip hop urban culture. They're not assimilation Negroes, so they're never going to be worldly accepted because they don't assimilate well. They haven't assimilated well. So when you see someone like a Stephen A. Smith who goes out of his way to criticize LeBron James, yes, he is a coon. Yes, but more specifically, he's an assimilation Negro. Same thing with Jason Whitlock. They're assimilation Negroes. That means that they assimilate, and they feel the way to succeed is to assimilate, like the Asians do. Right? Because like I said before, the reason why the Asians succeed and the reason why white people are not threatened by Asian people is because when Asian people generally are promoted or put in positions of power, they do not generally help other people who look like them or from their culture get up to that same level. They assimilate completely into white culture and they forget about their Asian culture. They do it constantly. When's the last time you saw an Asian person get in a high-ranking position and put another Asian person in that close to him? They completely assimilate, and that's what they want black people to do. They want black people to get up to the top and just they want to destroy the hip hop urban counterculture, and they want to just be a normal assimilation culture, and they think that's the way you are going to succeed in America. But I try to tell them, you're not going to succeed that way. Just some of you are going to succeed, like a Stephen A. Smith, a Jason Whitlock, and they're only going to use you so that you can push down the culture push down people who are different than you are. Only reason why Stephen A. Smith or Jason Whitlock has a job is because they need a black or African American in that position, right? So they need an African American, but in order for him to be there, he can't be so. He has to follow the party line, right? Shannon Sharp learned that the hard way, right? Shannon Sharp, when he first got his job on that show he is with Skip, he spoke out about black issues all the time. Then guess what started happening? Their ratings started dropping. Right? Their ratings start dropping because it does not matter how true what you're saying is. White people don't want to hear that. So they will cut it off. That's their power. That's how they assert power. They start to now, was it a deep drop? No. And were they able to recover those viewers? Yes. But when they recovered those viewers, they realized, why even go out on that limb anymore? Why not we just stay over here and just leave those topics alone, and that way we're not running off white. We can continue to keep gaining African American viewers because we've already got them, because I've already spoken on their issues, and now we can bring in the white people and not scare them out. It's an old and living color skit that used to come out all the time, and I remember it because it was so true. He said, They want to be right even when they're wrong. Right? And if you do not follow the party line, you do not do what they feel you're supposed to do, they will bury you. Because, as I said, you go look online. Lamar Jackson was trending in the first quarter. They didn't even let that man get through a quarter before they jumped on Twitter and started running with it. Then they got scared around the mid-second quarter when Lamar Jackson started lighting them up. They got scared. No more posts about Lamar Jackson until it got way to the point where they figured they knew the Ravens were going to lose. Then everybody came out of the woodwork. And I say this 100 times. Josh Allen played terrible. Drew Brees played terrible. Tom Brady played terrible. This last week, Aaron Rodgers played terrible. None of them trended. None of them trended on Twitter. Why is it that the one black player who actually ran for broke records, he threw for 365 yards and ran for another 150, but he's trending on Twitter because his team couldn't win a game. That's why he's trending on Twitter, because his team couldn't win. Now, he did everything in his power to help them win. And somebody said to me, well, he threw 2 interceptions. Okay. Let's explain this so that idiots get it, right? The Titans did not shut down Lamar Jackson. I think the Ravens punted once, twice, maybe 3 times that entire game. They did not shut down Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson was going up and down that field from the first quarter to the fourth quarter. He was going up and down the field on them. The interception that he threw was one of the problems because they had that layoff, right? Because they had that layoff, especially when they had that layoff with Lamar Jackson. I thought it was stupid for them to start to do that. They came back, their chemistry was just off. The balls were sailing. They were dropping passes all over the field. I mean, it was just ridiculous how bad the Ravens were playing. So what ended up happening is the Ravens ended up in a bad situation where they jumped out, where the Titans were able to jump out off mistakes. The first touchdown that they got was on a 3rd and goal, and it was one of the luckiest catches where Tannehill just threw the ball up, and Davis made a real good play on the ball, and somehow got his feet down. That's how they got him up 7-0, right? So the Ravens once again drive and they can't stop them, and they get to a 4th and 1. This is the problem with what the Ravens were doing. The Ravens were used to smash around football, but that's what the Titans do. The Titans are one of the top rushing defenses in the league. You are not going to be able to go straight at them. They should have forced more on the perimeter, but they refused to do that. When the safeties were coming up in the box, all day the Titans were rushing their safeties up, and they did. They brought it back, and almost every time they got a good play out of it. Problem was, receivers kept dropping the ball every time they would try to run a play action off that option look. They would get behind them, they just would drop the ball. So regardless, They end up stopping them on that 4th down. The Titans got the ball and threw a bomb. Just one big play, mix up in coverage, and they ended up. So that put them at 14-0. The problem with doing that against a team like the Titans, the Ravens do not have a good rush defense. They have an average rush defense. Their talent really is in their secondary, forcing people to pass the ball. They can force turnovers because they have a very opportunistic secondary, and they can get up in the box and they can actually play man-to-man, which really helps them. That does not help you against a running team like the Titans, because the Titans don't really throw the ball. They just hand the ball off to Derrick Henry, and they force you to put 8 and 9 people in the box, which really doesn't help you because that's not the type of defense that the Ravens run. So it put them at a disadvantage because now the Titans don't have to pass the ball, and the Ravens can't really are not really built to stop them from running. So it put them in a bad position. Now, if the Ravens had jumped out to a 14-0 lead, it would have been a completely different game. Because now the Titans cannot run the ball like they were running it, and they have to force Tannehill to beat them going against one of the best secondary in the league. That would have been a completely different game. Problem was is they came out rusty. They allowed 2 big plays, and it put the Titans in a comfort zone where they never had to come out and change what they did. The Ravens got the ball. They were taking out every time the Titans got the ball. They kept the ball for extended drives. So the Ravens would come. It would seem like they were shutting Lamar Jackson down, but they weren't. They were just keeping him off the field. So Lamar Jackson would come on the field. After that 4th down, Lamar Jackson was on. The Titans scored that quick touchdown. Then they got the Ravens. I think the Ravens got to midfield once again, and then they ended up stopping them, so they punted it. Right? That was one of the few punts they had. They punted it. Then they stopped the Titans again. The Titans ran another 3 or 4 minutes off, and then the Ravens ended up getting the ball with like 2 or 3 minutes left. Then they drove down and got all the way down, but it was only like 30 seconds left, so they had to kick a field goal instead of score a touchdown. They came out the next time and they drove down the field again, and instead of them kicking a field goal, which if they would have had more time in the first half, they would have got a touchdown. They would have just kicked the field goal. That would have put more pressure on them. But because they couldn't get that touchdown at the end of the half, they had to get a field goal, and they were still down by a touchdown. So now they driving down, and a field goal is not the same thing. And you got to up in inches, and all year the Ravens have been getting that. Problem is they have not been playing the Titans, who have one of the best rush defenses in the league. They went for it, couldn't get it. So now, and then the Titans got the ball again. They cannot stop their run. They're running it down. Another 4 or 5 minutes come off the clock, and they score off a jump pass from Derrick Henry. So yeah. And they scored off a ugly duck pass on 3rd and goal again. So they ran a lot of time off the clock again. The Ravens ended up getting the ball, and Lamar Jackson fumbled. The only real mistake he made the whole game was that fumble. He fumbled, and it was him trying to make a play, and he stepped up. He should have just either got loose of the ball. Got rid of the ball or ran. And took off running, but instead he stayed in the pocket when he probably should have ran, and they ended up ended up getting it. They got they couldn't stop. The Ravens couldn't stop their run. They ended up scoring again, so it ended up being 28-6. That put them in a deep hole. And now, but the Ravens were going up and down the field against them all day. They couldn't stop Lamar Jackson when he was on the field. And then after the game, that's what pissed me off. The game, they talking like they got some grand secret for stopping them. I'm like, he had 200 yards passing in the first half and almost 100 yards by the end of the 3rd quarter. Y'all did not stop him. All y'all did was keep him off the field because y'all playing the Ravens and y'all got an early lead, so y'all never had to come out of running the ball. Y'all could just run the ball. So y'all didn't really stop Lamar Jackson. But the whole perpetual lie that continued in the narrative was that Lamar Jackson played bad, and that's why the Ravens lost. When the truth of the matter was, the reason why the Ravens lost was because their defense played awful. And because their defense played awful, they couldn't. It wasn't on them. It wasn't on the Ravens. It wasn't on Lamar Jackson. That loss wasn't on him. He did his job. He was moving his team up and down the field. Problem was, when he lost the ball, his defense couldn't get them off the field. And they were taking up chunks, and they were scoring touchdowns. That's the big thing. They weren't dropping them down and making them kick field goals. They were going down and scoring touchdowns, long, crowd-killing, momentum-killing drives, where they were running up and down the field on the Ravens defense, because their rush defense has been average all year. It's not been great. It's just been average. And they ran up and down the field, and it allowed them to keep Lamar Jackson off the field. But Lamar Jackson still ended up with like 150 yards rushing, 300-something yards passing. So where did they stop him? But the minute the game was over, all these idiots who've been waiting all year because they're so insecure. They're the most insecure group of people you will ever find. They could not wait for that guy to play a bad game. Because we all know Peyton Manning's never played a bad game. Tom Brady's never played a bad game. Lamar Jackson didn't even play a bad game. Let that sink. He didn't even play a bad game. He played a good, not a great game, but he played a good game. He did everything he was supposed to do. He put yards up. He kept his offense on the field when they had the ball. Problem is their defense couldn't get their offense off the field. That's on their defensive line. That's on their rush defense. That wasn't on Lamar Jackson. But when you're talking to a bunch of people, you got to realize the vast majority of the viewing public are ignorant, stupid novices. They don't know anything about football. All they know is what the stupid announcers are telling them, right? So I tell people this all the time. Perspectives, everybody's entitled to their perspective. But the problem when white people have perspective is 90% of the people talking on television are white. So when they run away with a narrative, it is no stopping it. So you need a guy like a Stephen A. Smith. You need a guy like a Jason Whitlock. You need guys who are going to speak to the mindset of African American people or stick up for runaway narratives, but they don't. They never speak up for those narratives. They only speak up when black people run away with narratives. They never speak up when white people run away with narratives because they don't want to be seen as a threat. They don't want to be seen as a negative. They don't want to be seen as somebody that people gotta say, watch him. Because it does not matter. White people realize their power is in the fact that they are the majority. That's where their power comes from. So anytime you do anything that pisses them off, what's the first thing they do? They start mobbing. They start bringing cattling all the people they can get that think like they do, and then they start to attack you because they know their power is in the fact that they're the majority. That's why they fear immigration. That's why they fear all these people and these diversities. They fear that because they realize their power comes from them being the majority. And once they're not the majority, they have no power. So what they do half of the time is when they feel as if you are a threat, they will congregate and they will mob together and they will try to get you. They will make your life a living hell because that's what they do. Because that's their one power. That's one thing they do better than everybody else. And when you go and when you listen to narratives, they run away with narratives. So the minute Lamar Jackson, the whole narrative all year has been that these people are racist idiots and they should have never said Lamar Jackson wasn't good enough to play in the NFL. The guy just had a runaway season. There's no way in the world you should say that guy can't play quarterback. That's ridiculous. It was a stupid take. Now, instead of them just accepting that was a dumbass take and that they should have never made the take and that it was stupid, they double down. So now the whole year they've been waiting every single game to try to say that Bill Polian wasn't a racist. He was just saying the facts. And they couldn't because Lamar Jackson was destroying people. So they had no out and they wouldn't lose. The Ravens went on a 14-game win streak. They couldn't lose. So they couldn't lose. Lamar Jackson was obviously the reason why they were winning. They were still had murmurs that he wasn't a good quarterback, but they couldn't prove it. I mean, they couldn't say it without sounding like a blatant racist. So they just sat back with all their comments until he played a bad enough game. And then it wouldn't even have to be a bad game. It was just a little less. And the first thing they said was, dude, he threw for 365 yards, a touchdown, and ran 150 yards. Oh, that was trash. That was mop-up time. The game was 24-12. There was no mop-up time. They talking like it was freaking 40, like it was the Niners game. 45-7. No, they were only down by 2 touchdowns at the end of the third quarter. So what are you talking about? That doesn't even make sense. You don't do mob time. Who is in prevent when the game is a touchdown away? They were not in no prevent defense. What it does is it allows them to disregard facts and push narrative because they realize it's more of them than it is of anybody else. So they can just run with the narrative. And even if it's not true, They're gonna get enough people who are as sad and insecure as they are, who cannot stand to see what happened this year, which was a whole bunch of black quarterbacks destroying the league. They couldn't stand that. So which they have every right to do. If I'm a white American, I don't want to see nothing but black people there balling at the quarterback position. Because if I have a child and I want them to play quarterback, it's a bad look if you start looking at athletic ability to play the position, because we all know that white people don't feel that they measure up when it comes to athletic ability when in comparison to African Americans. Now, whether that's a myth or not is irrelevant. They believe it. So if you're gonna sit around and make the quarterback position the most athletic position on the field, that is a doomsday scenario for anybody who is looking for their child to play football for a living. All these guys out here with their kids in Little League, all these guys out here who've been preaching that it's the pocket quarterback because that's what they need to believe for their kid to be seen as a prospect, and they're the majority. You think that they're gonna be like, okay, this is good. My son will never be able to play in the NFL because he has no real athletic ability, and we just hope that we can teach him enough about football that he can use that he can trick somebody into believing he's a great quarterback. But now we've made this position like wide receiver and cornerback and running back and every other athletic position on the field. Well, what is that going to mean for our kids? Not well. So instead of us sitting up here saying, okay, and that's why I always get angry when black people start doing that. Oh, year of the black quarterback. I'm like, are you fucking stupid? Like, why would you put that out there? Do you realize the vast majority of people watching this are white people with children that they want to play quarterback, children that they want to play football, children that they want to see on the in that position? It's the only real position, high profile position they have. And you're trying to tell me the year of the black quarterback is not going to scare them? Of course it's going to scare them. It's idiotic to even post that. You want to the geniuses that feel that every single time a group of black people start doing something that is somehow so that we gotta tout it. It's like the prime example was the other day, right? I'm on Twitter, and this idiot lady posts up some crap because some white guy is like on Instagram, like taking pictures with his girlfriend who's a black girl who's kind of biracial. I wouldn't even call her black, but she's like biracial, and she's like putting it on her thing like the power, the power and beauty of black. I'm like, dude, what? Do you realize how embarrassing that is? How sad and embarrassing that is, that you feel that because one white dude liked one biracial girl, that somehow makes you more important, makes you more beautiful. Do you realize how embarrassing and sad that is? How pathetic that is, that you have to tout that? Do you think some white girl is going up and putting up online that because some black guy like her? You think that's happening with an Asian or biracial chick? No, only people that do that are or a good-looking dark-skinned chick. You think she's doing that? No, it's always the girl who's not good-looking. Like you ain't got nothing to do with you being black. You're just not good-looking, and so they go because they're not good-looking people, and they need to make excuses for why they're not good-looking people. So they start saying, well, black people hate themselves. No, if you're a beautiful black woman, it's a lot of beautiful black women that have no trouble getting men from any race because they're beautiful. You have a problem getting people from other races because you're not beautiful. You're just okay or not good looking at all. And half the time you see these girls doing that, they're overweight. They have bad skin, bad dressing, hair, everything in the world. And they're like, dude, they ain't got nothing to do with you being no dark skinned black girl. You're just not good looking. And I'm like, dude, I see beautiful black dark-skinned girls with a haircut. They don't matter about your hair. I seen beautiful dark-skinned black girls with their hair cut completely off.
They're just beautiful. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter about their skin color. If you're beautiful, you're beautiful. I don't care if you're freaking what race you are. There's white girls who walk around who are just not beautiful. You're just not pretty. It ain't got nothing to do with you being overweight. There's a lot of overweight girls who are pretty girls, and they have no problem getting girls. It had nothing to do with you. You're just not good looking, and you're overweight. And that's the same thing I feel like with the black quarterback junk. It's like, dude, we don't need this. We know that African Americans are good enough to play quarterback, right? We know this. We don't need y'all to celebrate it. When you celebrate it, it is demeaning. It is condescending. It's like you're condescending to your own people. Like, oh, look, a black person can play quarterback. They said we couldn't do it. Who gives a crap what they said? At the end of the day, you can root for a black quarterback by yourself. You can root for them to do well. You can preach and you can want them to do well. Hell, I do it all the time. But do I only root for black quarterbacks? No, I root for people who I feel are being treated unjustly, and that happens to black, white, no matter what the color is. It happens a lot. Of course, it happens way more often, and there's a concentrated effort for all the reasons I previously named for why they do it to African American quarterbacks. But the problem with the people like Stephen A. Smith and Jason Whitlock is they're on there to add diversity, right? Their job is to speak for the people who have nobody to speak for them. And they do a terrible job. So your spot is given to you because of your race. Because you're supposed to give a unique perspective that is unique to the African American experience. And you never do it. Jason Whitlock never does it. Shannon Sharp now never does it, unless he's talking about something that had nothing to do. They all speak about it when it has nothing to do with nothing. Stephen A. Smith, they're hiring all these black coaches. I don't give a shit about that. It's like three African American coaches that are viable spots. I'm sorry, they may not be. It's not like it's a huge pool of talent to pull from. I mean, if you go even down to Division I football, how many of them are? And I do feel like they need to have more people who want to do that. But the truth of the matter is, a lot of black people don't want to be coaches. There's not a lot of people for them to choose from. So they take a bullshit argument and they try to push that when the real argument is about the African American quarterback. But that's so stupid that they say, well, look at Patrick Mahomes. First of all, let's to the people who keep saying Patrick Mahomes, and they piss me off every time. Patrick Mahomes is biracial. He is not black. He's a biracial person who is black and who has black and white ethnicity. Okay? So if he does well, guess what the racists get to do? They get to point at his white ethnicity and his white lineage and say that's the reason why he's able to play quarterback. It does nothing for the African American. Because they can always, just like with Steph Curry and just like with all these other people, they can always point back to the white lineage and say, see, that's why. But Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson, hell to freeze over before they win a Super Bowl, because they're going to get every call they can. Because guess what? Not only is the person who's explaining the games to the idiots white, and he's not only white, but he's a pocket quarterback who hates that people say that a mobile quarterback is better than his type of quarterback. Because guess what? He was that type of quarterback. So guess what? Now you're taking this guy. 9 out of 10 of the guys announcing the game are pocket quarterbacks who made their livelihood, their name, their legend, all this stuff on that type of quarterback. And you're telling them that their type of quarterback is old-fashioned, not as good, built off racism. And you know what they're going to do? They're going to get on TV and they're going to analyze every single pass that Lamar Jackson throws. They analyze it. That one was low. That one was high. Tom Brady, you don't ever hear them mention when he throws the ball bad. You never hear them saying when he makes a bad read. You never hear them saying when he makes a bad throw. They never mention it. because because they don't have. It's not because they're racist and it's a mindset that they're trying to be harsher. No, it's because they are cognizant when Lamar Jackson is playing, because his quarterback ability is constantly being called into question. So because of that, they're on high alert when he makes a bad decision. So anytime he makes a bad decision, they're going to tell the audience he made a bad decision. When Tom Brady makes a bad decision, they're just going to assume it was a glitch. Yeah, well, everybody makes a mistake. But that starts to become problematic when you start to point when you're telling idiots every bad decision that Lamar Jackson makes, and you don't mention any of the decisions that Matt Ryan makes, Tom Brady makes, Drew Brees makes. You don't mention them. The assumption is that they don't make those mistakes. But the problem is they don't care, because half of the guys speaking are white pocket quarterbacks. Those 90% of the only guys they give analyst job to are white pocket quarterbacks or fullbacks or tight ends. White guys. So 90% of the guys who are giving you perspective on the game are giving it from a white, non-athletic perspective. Tight ends, fullbacks. Do you think it would be the same perspective and the same narrative if half of these guys speaking during the game were black quarterbacks who are athletic, scramblers? Now, you wouldn't hear that, because the truth of the matter is the only time they're going to let them speak is if they know they're going to say what they think they're supposed to say. They'll put Chris Carter up there because they know what Chris Carter going to say. He's going to say everything the white guy's going to say. They'll put Booger McFarland up there because he's going to say everything the white guy would say. So there's no diversity. Now they putting the black guy out there to make you think it's diversity, but it's not diversity, because he's saying the same thing the white guy is saying. That's what Stephen A. does better than anybody else. He says what the white guy would say better than any white guy could say it. What he said today, white America wanted to say. There was a white guy out there when he said there's a difference between a running quarterback and a quarterback who can run. That is something that every racist white person in ESPN wanted to say but couldn't. And this idiot got on national TV and said it. Forever tainting a guy who bust his ass to overcome stigmas, stereotypes, and everything in his way to be a productive quarterback, an MVP. And you took all that man's hard work and for a freaking check, you took all this man's hard work and you spit on it. It's ridiculous. That guy bust his ass to get what he was. He deserved better than what Stephen A. did today. That was a sad, pathetic attempt for a guy to pine to a bunch of people that he never had to pine to anyway. Nobody gives a shit about what Stephen A. thinks. Everybody thinks he's an idiot anyway. He never adds any real perspective to anything he brings. He comes to a conversation to add in. When is the last time you had a discussion where they talked to Stephen A. Smith where he brought up something that you actually was like, that's actually a good point? It's rare, if not extinct. Like he never brings up a topic where you say, I didn't think about that. Because he never says anything important. He never says anything that you didn't already hear and or already know. If you hear anything for Stephen A., you either heard it 3 shows earlier or he brought some perspective that was just stupid and didn't even fit the conversation. He's an idiot. He knows nothing about sports. He knows a little about basketball, but that's it. And but the difference between what he knows about basketball is he's so tainted by his relationships with all these players that he has no real good perspective on that either. He is the most useless analyst you will ever find. And when you sit up there and you listen to a guy who spends the lion majority of his time cutting down black quarterbacks like Cam Newton. He was even bagging on Deshaun Watson before Deshaun Watson showed that he assimilated well. Lamar Jackson, obviously. He is one of their biggest proponents. He is the main one coming on TV every week saying this thing that the white analyst wants to say but can't say because he'll get attacked for being the racist that he is. So Stephen A will say it. And he never, ever, ever does the same thing to white quarterback. He is the most pathetic, spineless analyst you will find. You never hear him say anything negative about unless it's open season for him, meaning other white analysts have downed him. Like once he gets the red light because other white analysts have said that they suck, then he'll go in on them. But if other white analysts have not opened the door, because Carson Wentz has played like shit all year, right? When have you heard Stephen A. Smith mention or say anything negative about him? He's been defending him for 6 or 7 weeks. But Lamar Jackson throws 365 yards and he's a running back playing quarterback. It was disgusting for him to say that. And you know how many white guys, after he said that, went, yep, that's the truth. They're mad because Stephen A. Smith is telling the truth. No, we're mad because Stephen A. is full of shit. That's why we're mad. Stephen A. doesn't know football whatsoever. He knows nothing about football. He couldn't tell you if you sat down and tried to get him to explain a coverage. How in the world can you sit up there and give a true critique on how good of a quarterback Lamar Jackson is when you yourself don't know what a cover 3 is, cover 0, what a buzzing linebacker, blitzing, what you don't know anything about football. Yet you'll get up here and spit on everything this man has created, everything this man has worked his ass off to achieve. For what? To get a couple racists on your ratings? To get a couple racists to tune in? You are supposed to be there to come on there when all these stupid idiot racist people who've been waiting on that man to fail. It was your job. That's what you got your diversity spot for. To give the black perspective. You should have been on there to defend that guy. You should have been the one on there saying, like Shannon Sharp did, where he came on there and said, look, we need to stop because people are running away with this junk and it's pathetic and it's disgusting. Shannon Sharp did that. Because he's one of the few black people who uses his platform to speak to the black experience, to speak to the black perspective. Stephen A. Smith is just a token assimilation Negro who does absolutely nothing for the position that he was placed in there. He was placed in there once again to give our perspective, and he never gives our perspective. He gives his perspective and the perspective of his rich black friends that he wants to push. That's why he jumped on there with the whole Colin Kaepernick situation. You know why he did that? Because he's friends with Jay-Z. Right? That's why he brings Jay-Z, little puppet, little writer on there to try to promote his little book. Because that's why. He's friends with Jay-Z. So Jay-Z started getting heat for the whole Colin Kaepernick situation because he's a hypocrite. And then so he turns around and tries to spin the narrative that Jay-Z tried to help him so that he can turn it. So he wanted Colin Kaepernick to go so Colin Kaepernick can fix things so Jay-Z won't look like as much as a sellout. That's why he did it. The reason why he jumps on and speaks about LeBron James is because he's friends with Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Kyrie Irving. The reason why he's always been positive about Carmelo Anthony because he has a relationship with Carmelo Anthony. He refuses to say anything negative about anybody he has a relationship with. He will be very, very selective in the things that he says when it comes to people that he knows. And he's very disrespectful when it comes to people he does not know. That's why he's disrespectful to LeBron. He's disrespectful to Kawhi Leonard because he has no relationship with them. So he does not care what he says about them and or to them. Because he knows that nobody's going to touch him because he's wall-to-wall security. Who's going to be able to touch him? He just walks around doing whatever he wants to do because ain't nobody going to be able to get to him. And let me say, I'm not saying nobody should try to do anything to him. What I'm saying is he has no fear of repercussions. He's one of the most highly paid people on ESPN. They fly him all over the place. Every other black person in that company has either quit or left or been fired because they do not do what Stephen A. Smith does. ESPN increasingly are losing money because ESPN has somehow become the voice of the women and become the voice of has become the voice of the women and has become the voice of white pissed off America. So they're starting to plummet in ratings because because when people go on there, they're either getting some story where some lady is talking about the injustice of one or two players out of 3,000 that abuse women and saying that it's a culture in NFL of men abusing women. Dude, you realize that 3 or 4,000 men in the NFL and you can only name 2 or 3 cases every 2 or 3 years? That's not an epidemic. That's not a problem. You go in any workplace, you go to McDonald's, you go to freaking Walmart, and I guarantee you're going to get a couple people who beat their wives and do stuff like that because that's the human condition. We live in a messed up world, a lot of messed up people in it. But ESPN keeps pushing these narratives and they keep pushing this mindset. And so they kind of ran into a rough patch. So they tried to steer away from talking about African American issues, but they didn't steer away from talking about political issues. They just steered away talking about African American issues. So African Americans stopped watching them. So even though they may have gotten the white people, African Americans drew back because they got to the point. Like I said, I stopped watching this whole thing with Lamar Jackson. I was like, I'm done with him. I'm not giving that dude another rating. I'm done with Stephen A. Smith. If his clips come up on TV and I know it's not on ESPN, I might ESPN's channel, I might look at it. But I'm not touching his feed. I hate that dude. I don't hate anybody, but I seriously dislike his mindset. You know, like I just cannot. I can't support somebody like that. You got a 22-year-old kid busting his butt to break all these barriers for no reason, and he's getting all this hate for simply being good, for being a good player. That's why all these people are attacking him, because he did nothing but win games and play well. That guy didn't do anything. He wasn't Cam Newton. He wasn't jumping up, celebrating people's faces or doing anything like that. That man was a humble, respectful, good dude who played well. And he got under their skin because some idiot decided to make an unfair assessment about him, and he broke the mold and broke the mold of this stupid assessment, and everybody called this idiot out for saying what he said. So all these white people got up in arms because the last thing you can do in America is admit that racism exists. So instead of them, and I tell people this all the time, when you are dealing with a racist person, it does not matter what the truth is. It only matters what they believe the truth is, because all they want is for their reality to be the truth. Everything else is irrelevant. There's a reason why people only watch Fox News or MSNBC or CNN. They don't mix, because anytime somebody says something that they do not want to be true, they turn it off. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. They don't want to hear it. So if you tell them something, whether it be conservative or liberal, if you tell them something they do not want to hear, they will turn it off immediately. There's no perspective. There's nobody listening anymore. It's just a bunch of people giving their perspective to people who already think like they do. So it's just this cocoon, and it's going to create this hostile environment that's going to lead to another civil war. Because the internet has created a place for people who are ignorant to continue to be ignorant with the guise that they are intelligent, because they only go to places that affirm what they already believe. And when it's all said and done, they have a whole bunch of bullcrap that they believe is true and that the other side is doing as detrimental, and they doing the same thing, and sooner or later they gonna believe that they gotta stop them, and they gonna believe they gotta stop them, and it's going to lead to another civil war. Mark my words. because the train is too far now to change its trajectory. It's going into a crash course because you got two idiots on two sides. Neither one are listening, and they're both throwing out accusations left and right with no filter, because they don't have to filter it, because they're talking to people who already agree with everything they say, or they wouldn't be listening to them. So, anyways, that guy is the biggest freaking coon you will ever find. And if you ever come across a video of that dude, do not support him. Do not watch his videos. Do not, unless if you see ESPN at the bottom of his video, do not watch it. Do not thumb up his videos. Don't unless if you know he's getting credit for it, do not go to it. Do not watch his show. Do not. You can get his clips. Get his clips from people without the ESPN logo on it. Do not give him views nor likes. He is not worthy of it. That dude is the most pathetic excuse for a black voice you will ever find. He has no room to even be anywhere near a talking spot, talking about he's representing African Americans. He is a joke, a pure joke that's on there because he says what other people can't say because he's too dumb to realize he's an idiot. When he makes too much money for anybody to give a shit. And I hate when I hear people, he's the hardest working person on ESPN. What the hell does he do? He pops up on the screen and says a bunch of bullshit for 10 minutes and then gets off. Whoa, hard worker. Like, what does he work 2 hours a day? Like, this is what gets me when I hear people say that. He's the hardest working person on ESPN. For what? He gets to go on an airplane and live and stay at expensive hotels to watch game for free. Yeah, what a hard worker. Hey, come on, dude. Ain't nobody buying it. He's not no hard worker. He's a freaking sellout who basically will do anything, and they paying him $12 million a year or something like that. Hell, you better be doing something, because I can't see where they getting their money back for him. All he does is jump on there and start yelling for no reason about stuff nobody cares about but him. And Max used to speak more for the black perspective. But the problem ended up coming. He started getting so much heat from white America, and they started hating him so much that they started wanting him to get kicked off the show. So now he's backtracked. He doesn't speak so often. He still speaks better and speaks more eloquently and more decisively than Stephen A. Smith does. And Stephen A. Smith is a nobody. Like I said, he only speaks to people. He only speaks to his rich friends. He never says anything about lower class black people because he's ashamed of lower class black people. Max speaks for all people. He's real good at doing that. Problem is that his perspective is so wrapped up in his liberalness that people tune him out. You know what I mean? Even black people I see sometimes, you like, Max be going a little too hard sometimes, because black people, like, everything ain't some race battle or some sexist battle or some, everything ain't there. But Max gets love from the African American community, and I think that's one of the reasons why he does so well. But the white people hate him. Like, they hate Max. And so you can tell Max is starting to try to be more center left than he was before, because he opportunities and stuff like that, endorsements, opportunities, all that. That's what you're doing it for. And if he's in a situation where he's getting negative reviews or he's getting negative feedback from the fans, and because they're the majority, you know what I'm saying, and they mob, they gonna get a lot of people to mob and thumb down his videos and jump online and say negative things about him, because they're the majority in America. So anytime they feel a certain way, they can get enough people who can go online and do that type of stuff. So you know what I'm saying, you can say a bunch of negative stuff about black people, because they ain't gonna go, the chances of an African American actually seeing it, because we're such a small, our population is so small in relation to white people, you're not gonna really have a lot of fear of getting a lot of backlash unless it becomes something that is perpetuated through social media, and then black people get a hold of it. But if it's just like this whole MLK thing with Kyrie Irving. The MLK thing Kyrie Irving said that 3 or 4 days ago, but they published it on Martin Luther King Day. But But Kyrie said that days ago. He said that almost a week ago. But they purposely didn't put it out until today so that people can speak, so that people can criticize the guy and say, oh, well, he's comparing himself to Martin Luther King, when he wasn't comparing himself to Martin Luther King. He's saying that people will criticize you for anything. He was like, if somebody like Martin Luther King is simply asking to be treated fairly, and people hate him and criticize him for that, then what do you expect they're going to do to me? He was actually saying the opposite. He was saying, like if they did it to him, of course I shouldn't be surprised they would do it to me. But the narrative at the end of the day was Kyrie's comparing himself to Martin Luther King, which is just retarded. It's like, how the hell do you get that out of what he said? And I'm not even a Kyrie Irving fan. It's like, that's not what he said at all. He never compared himself and said that him and Martin Luther King are on the same level. He's saying that Martin Luther King is way higher than him. And if they'll criticize him, then who is he to sit up there and be surprised that they would criticize him? Because stuff he says is nowhere near as important as the stuff Martin Luther King used to say. And right as Martin Luther King saying he met opposition. So why shouldn't he? You know, he's just a guy playing a game. Why shouldn't they criticize him? So, I don't know. But that's the perspective. Half of the people in this world do that. You know what I'm saying? You know, we live in a world that is dominated by the dominant ethnicity is white people. So, you start kneeling, they don't like it. Guess what? You won't be kneeling again. You a black quarterback, you're the black quarterback, and y'all throwing it in their face every 2 minutes. Black quarterback, black quarterback, black quarterback. Oh, we killing them. Oh, you racist, da. Oh, they coming. The minute that drop, all them people that have been eating crow all year, which is probably 30% of the white watching population, a white, frumpy white dude, insecure white dudes. 70% of white dudes probably don't even care. There's that 30% subset that is still more than almost double the full African American population, and that small little population is gonna go ape shit, and they're gonna try to get him. They're gonna try to make it so that this one game ends up defining his career. So now, it does not matter. Lamar Jackson can go out next year and throw for 4,000 yards and run for 1,500 yards, and they're going to say it means nothing. Meanwhile, Sam Darnold can go out and throw for 5,000 yards, and guess what they're going to say? Nothing. Matt Ryan asked them win a championship game. Then win a playoff game for years. Plural. 8 or 9 years. Did you ever hear any narrative like that about Matt Ryan? Nope. Didn't hear nothing about him. Peyton Manning was notorious for failing in the playoffs. Yet he was still a top 5 quarterback. Phillip Rivers won two or three in like 17, 18 years. How many he won, like 2 or 3 playoff games? Do you hear much about him? He can go 17 years winning 2 or 3 playoff games. Nobody says Matt Ryan the same thing. Nobody says anything. But Lamar Jackson better win the Super Bowl next year. He better win the Super Bowl next year, or at least make it to the AFC Championship game. Because if he come out next year and the Ravens are 12-4 or 10-6, then it's all his fault. He was a one-year wonder. He sucks. He can go out and throw for the same amount of yards, rush for the same amount of yards. But if the Ravens are 10-6, the narrative is going to be that he failed. He is in a no-win situation, and they purposely made it that way. It does not matter. If they go 16-0, it does not matter. If they go 13-3, and he throws for 4,000 yards and runs for 2,000, it does not mean a thing. They will say the only thing that matters for him is playoff. Even though that's not been the standard for any white quarterback ever. To be considered a good quarterback. Not to be considered the greatest of all time, to be considered a good quarterback. They have never had to win no playoff game. They have never had to win, especially not in their second year in the league. Bullshit. If this was Sam Darnold right now, ain't nobody would be saying a damn thing about the fact that he didn't win no championship, that he didn't win a playoff game. Nobody, especially if he had 550 total yards, whether they be passing or whatever. If he had 550 yards, ain't nowhere in hell they're blaming him for that loss. If that's Sam Darnold or Josh Rosen or any of the bullcrap people that they pick to be great quarterbacks. But Lamar Jackson, he can throw for he can have 550 total yards, and next year he better win a playoff game. Anyways, as I said before, I like I said, this had me hot mad. Anybody who's familiar with my channel know that this is one of the few things I feel extremely strong about. I cannot stand the black quarterback situation because it seems like the only people who focus or understand how hard it is for African American quarterback is African Americans. White people completely dismiss it. They want to point out, oh, look how many black quarterbacks is. First of all, they got there because they're good, not because they're black. So it's not like the owners looked at them and say, you know what, we need to have more black quarterbacks, so you guys come on. No, they half of them were drafted lower than they should have been, and the guys drafted before them have done worse than they have, outside of Mahomes, who's black. If you want to consider biracial, but he's still black. So he still has black ethnicity. So you got Russell Wilson, Cam Newton, what is it, Jameis Winston. Like I said, it's a few Jacoby Brissett. It was a lot of black quarterbacks that played well this year. Guarantee you they're gonna make sure that shit don't happen next year. I can almost guarantee you. You got 32 rich white owners who don't want, who do not want. They saw what happened with the NBA when they originally started as a black league. It dropped. Now that was when it was ignorant and stupid and racist. But the owners in the NFL are like 70-year-old old ass white dudes. They're not like the NBA owners. They're old ass dudes who are racist as hell. They just don't say that they're racist as hell, but they are. So they're racist old dudes, and you think that they want their league to be seen as a black league? So if the face of the league are black quarterbacks, not a good look for them. Even though the ratings went up this year because people like to see talent, once the narrative of that talent starts to change, the black people do it better, the ratings will drop. So instead of people celebrating the fact that you have a bunch of good young quarterbacks, everybody is focusing on the fact that they're good black quarterbacks. And they're touting the fact that they're black and that they're good, and it's losing. It's becoming an argument of who's better, white or black, instead of who should because a person is athletic, should they be omitted? That is the discussion. You know what I'm saying? Because black quarterbacks are not the only people who have to go through that stigma. Now, they're the majority of them, because the majority of them are athletic. But there are a lot of white quarterbacks who have been discriminated against and asked to move positions because they have been very athletic. Because they do not want that position to be athletic. Because that is the one position that they can get the clean, rich, white kid to play. Right? Baseball different. Baseball, that's talent. Why? Because you got a bunch of lower class white guys playing it. So they're athletic. They have talent. Because that's what happens when you're lower class. When you're lower class, the only thing that gets you out of that predicament is talent. So you got a bunch of the white. They don't need to do that in the MLB because they have talent. The same thing in NFL. The best white quarterbacks are guys from the middle lower class. Why? Because they actually have talent. They actually have to hone their skill to get there. But all these other guys, these Matt Ryan, these rich guys, these Josh Rosens and Sam Darnold, that moms are lawyers and doctors, you think that they always end up sucking ass. You know why they end up sucking ass? Because they don't have no talent. They just end up in their spots because their parents know people. And they have a look that makes them look like a quarterback. Did you notice that? the quarterbacks they love are always blonde, tall blonde guys. Your Matt Ryan's, Peyton Manning's. Rich white guys who come from, all these rich guys. I mean, Andrew Luck didn't have blonde hair, but he's another one rich guy from that's what they want. They want to keep putting all these rich guys at quarterback, all these upper class white guys, and that's what they want to see. They don't want to see no lower class white dude. You saw what that dude that Mallet. He was a lower class white dude, very talented dude. He's not gonna get that opportunity, you know why? Because he's trailer trash. He's white trash to them. It's just like Stephen A. sees Lamar Jackson. That's how they see lower class white. They don't want him representing my franchise. Johnny Manziel's, he hangs around with black people. He's a rapper. I don't want him. They don't want to draft them. They don't want them. They want the white guy who makes jokes with them in the meeting room. They want the white guy who they go out golfing with after practice. That's who they want in their meeting room. Guy like them. Problem is 90% of them are white. So guess what happens to the black guy? He's screwed. Because if he comes in, luckily Lamar Jackson went to a cool guy like who protects him and who actually has respect for him in Harbaugh. But that's not always the case. RG3 is screwed. They gave away all their draft picks, and then their next draft pick, stupid ass Michael Shanahan, drafted another quarterback. Instead of getting a guy a tight end, you giving away your picks for the next couple years. You gonna draft another quarterback, not a tight end or something that can help the guy out. The guy still excels, gets hurt, and comes back because he does not trust you. He feels as if you're not putting him in a position to succeed. You're putting him in a position to fail. So he's like, you're not. And he's saying, well, we wanted him to continue to run. He was saying he wanted to be more of a pocket quarterback. Yes, that's your job. Your job is not to keep running him like he's a running back. He's not a running back. He's a quarterback. So can you make a scheme that allows me to be able to play in this league for a long period of time, not a thing that's going to get me hurt next year. I'm sorry. I do not. Maybe RG3 could have not been so strong about just taking the running out altogether. But if I feel like he lost trust in Mike Shanahan. And Kyle Shanahan, he feel like they was trying to sabotage them because they always wanted Kirk Cousins. Same thing with Jeff Fisher and Vince Young. They don't want to draft these black guys because they do not relate to them. That's not their type of people. Half of the time when you see these guys, these coaches, they're forced to draft these black guys. They do not want them. They want prototypical white guy who they can sit down that they feel they can coach, who can be like their son. They don't want black guys who can come in listening to hip-hop music and jamming and joking with the guys on the team and going out on the weekends and they don't want that because they can't relate to that guy. They can't relate to the guy listening to Kodak Black. They can relate to the guy who walks around, who comes in there and goes golfing on the weekends and goes to dinner with his wife. Yeah, they relate well with him because that's them. So they want to draft that guy. So when they're sitting down having an interview, they're talking to the kid who has all the talent in the world, but he talks like he's sitting up there saying, "Man, I don't know, like yeah, like me and my dogs, we got that." You don't want to talk. You don't want to draft that guy. Of course he doesn't interview well because he's not saying anything that's going to make them think that they can have any type of rapport with him. But guy comes in and say, "Yes, sir. Yes, well, I walked, me and the wife, we do this. And what do you do for fun? Oh, golf. Yeah, he's a great interview. No, he's just more like you. If you go, and I tell people this all the time, being a head coach and picking a quarterback is like picking a roommate. Nobody wants to be racist, but ain't nobody want to be stuck in a room in a house with somebody that is completely different than they are. It's the same thing when it comes to picking a quarterback, and I just wish people would pay attention to that, but they don't. They just want to quick to tell people that they're using a race card and that they're bringing up, because the only time most racist people love to tell people they're using a race card. You know why? Because it's gotten to the point where it allows them to get out of criticism without ever having to actually answer to the criticism that's being aimed at them. So I just sidestep it and call you a racist. Now, okay, was my argument valid? Doesn't matter. I'll just tell you're going to race, so that for your argument is gone. The minute you mention race, your argument's done. Okay, well then you're an idiot, because race actually has something to do with with certain arguments. Not every argument, but certain arguments, it has something to do with it. But because you have dismissed race as a possibility in any in any way, now all of a sudden the world has to conform to your belief, because the majority of people are white and ignorant. So we have to conform to your belief. And so now anytime it can be the most racist crap, we got to give the benefit of the doubt when there shouldn't be no benefit of the doubt. That was racist as hell. Why are we even giving credos to whether? Because we know we have to, even when it's obvious, we have to give credence to their side because they're the majority. So even when we know it's straight bullshit, we got to sit up here and say, well, is there a possibility it wasn't racist? He called him a nigger. Oh, yeah, but is there a possibility that he could have just, kind of been listening to rap? Come on, are you fucking serious? That's where we going with this? Get down well, he wasn't talking about no rap music. He's calling the guy that because he's a racist. Yeah, but you don't know that. That is the world we live in. You know why? Because they are the majority. So anytime any situation comes up, you have to give credence to their mindset because they are the majority. And I am in no way, shape, form, or fashion making any grandiose or wide painting the majority of white people. I do not think the majority of white people are racist, but there is a lot of racist white people, and I think that's the distinction. Because the majority of white people are not racist does not mean there are not a lot of white racists. There are a lot of white people in America. So even if 30% of them have racist views, maybe, and it's a spectrum, some really racist, some slightly racist. If 30% are like that, then guess what happens? That's a lot of people who are racist. There's a lot of people who are running on people's YouTube and writing vile stuff. There are a lot of people running on posting vile stuff. So there are a lot of people working to push racist agenda, and you ignore it because you're not racist. And I think that's ignorant. Anyways, I've talked long enough. Really did not want to have a long video, but like I said, when I get to talk about topics that get under my skin like this one does, I just can't. I cannot. I try to answer every perspective because I try to make sure that people understand mine. You know what I'm saying? So I try to let them understand every aspect of what I'm thinking. And the whole point I'm trying to make is that I feel like Stephen A. Smith is there to represent the black voice. He's there to be the diverse guy who speaks on our behalf, or that's what they have him there, for the diversity. And he never speaks to our mindset. And that, to me, is what makes him and Jason Whitlock, those type of guys, the biggest failures. Because they don't ever speak to our perspective. And they're on there, and we don't have anybody who speaks for us, who speaks on our behalf, who speaks from our mindset. Every time we turn on TV, we got to hear people speaking from the white perspective. And they are everywhere. You turn on talk radio, you turn on YouTube, all you get is the white perspective. And that's the thing I hate the most about sports, is that all you get is the white perspective, and they don't try to add any diversity to it. Well, they try to, but in the end, the person hiring the diverse person is the same person that hired the white person. So he's looking for someone like the white person, or he wouldn't have hired the white person. So now, okay, I'm looking for a black person, but this is the type of guy I'm looking for. So I'm only gonna hire someone who is like the person I hired, because I obviously hired him because I liked the way he was. You get what I'm saying? You cannot have diversity when the people hiring are not diverse. So the perspective is different. The narrative is different. Black quarterbacks don't stand a chance. Because when they're going to have the vast majority of people talking who do not agree with their perspective. Whenever a black person makes a mistake, like a Antonio Brown or Terrell Owens, they're going to get eaten alive because the vast majority of people giving the perspective are white people about a culture they do not understand and do not like. And now they're hiring black guys who are doing the same thing. And it's disgusting. Anyways, like I said, I just wanted to say that, please, if you like what you're saying, or like what you're hearing, please comment, subscribe, and thumbs up the videos. I really appreciate the time. If you listen to this whole thing, thank you. And please, like I said, check out my other videos and thumbs them up and comment as well. All right, y'all. Peace.